Take it. Take it. Take my money. A review segment run completely by Nintendo fans. Welcome to BNGR. Mario Tennis is a series of 2 worlds for Nintendo. The console versions are known for their craziness and insane special moves, while the portable versions are known for their RPG elements and character development. So the dev team at Camelot must have thought, hey, why don't we take elements from both of these games and put it into one awesome game? Now this could have gone well, you know? It's like combining hot chocolate and milk. You're getting the best of both worlds. Well, this game's more like combining cranberry juice with water. You're left with a diluted mix of... pretty disappointing. Ugh. So let's talk about the positives first. The core gameplay still remains the same, with the player having lob shots, topspin shots, etc., and the AI is still very fun to play against. Camelot even put the effort to assign these controls to a touchscreen, which is actually a good alternative if you like, well, touching things. Anyway, there's 8 singles cups and 8 doubles cups in exhibition mode, which slowly get harder without feeling like cheap AI, and allow you to unlock insane amounts of gear. There's even awesome mini-games, like the popular ring shot from Mario Power Tennis, where you vault your balls through rings, and Super Mario Tennis, which lets you play the original Super Mario Bros. By whacking everything with your balls. For a cherry on top, there's up to 4-player lag-free multiplayer, local or online, and even Street Pass features where you can play with other Miis you run into. So, all these features sound super awesome, right? You're gonna get out of your Mario PJs and go run over to the store, right? Well, stay put. I'm gonna tell you how Camelot got everything else wrong. Now first up are the gyro controls. Now the way they work is that your camera angle goes down towards your character, and you tilt your 3DS to look around. Now there's nothing wrong with using this angle, but if you don't use the circle pad, the game moves the character for you, which turns into a touchscreen click the shiny button game. Now if you want to be lazy and do this in single player, be my guest, but the thing is Camelot forgot to take this out in multiplayer. This single-handedly breaks the multiplayer experience, with some near mortal opponents always returning shots. They really need to update that in the patch. Now second up is the lack of an RPG mode. Now I usually wouldn't mind this not being here, since it's not in the console versions, but they took out what the console versions were known for, items and special shots. I understand they did this to make the game more balanced, but Camelot just gave us the worst of both worlds. The items can't spruce up anything, making the game like the handheld version, but the handheld version's missing the RPG stuff, just making a stupid design choice overall. All we get are chance shots, which pretty much just tell you good places to get your opponent, which doesn't even come close to the other stuff missing. Oh, but it gets worse. The gear that replaces these RPG elements can only be applied to your Mii. So the game discourages you to use any other character in the game, because you're always wanting to try to wear something new. Now that's just... Not to mention using pie charts for stats is just plain dumb. That's like you leveling up a Pokemon and the game's like, oh, use your stat boost. What? Man, for a company who's built its foundation on RPGs, I refuse to believe Camelot doesn't know how to correctly convey stats. But number 3 is what really hurts this game. It has no soul. Not a hint of a storyline in sight, a subtle hint of uniqueness, or even characteristics that made these Nintendo characters lovable in the first place. Be prepared to get bored real fast, hitting balls back and forth with the same characters, trying out some new gear, rinse, repeat. I'm getting sleepy just thinking about it. What was Camelot thinking? Alright, well let's get on to the review. Fun. Now the core concept of this game is a lot of fun, but the problem is some atrocious design choices really get in the way. So because of that, 5. Now looks-wise, this is a decent looking tennis game, but there's nothing really flashy going on screen and the 3D is very throwaway. So because of that, 7. Now sound-wise, the game actually kind of surprised me in this department. A lot of the songs are actually pretty darn good, but unfortunately the character voices get really annoying after a while. So because of that, 7. Now lengthwise, you're getting a bunch of awesome minigames and tons of Mii unlockables, but you also get a repetitive exhibition mode and a compromised multiplayer experience. So because of that, 5. Now difficulty-wise, I'm gonna give this a low to medium. Mostly because the game is pretty easy to plow through, but the later tournaments can get kinda challenging. So I'm gonna give this game a 6 out of 10, and I can only recommend this game at full price to hardcore fans of the Mario Tennis series. Everyone else should wait till the bargain bin. Alright, well that concludes my review. Subscribe if you like my stuff as usual, and be sure to check out my other series on Nintendo on my channel. And I'll be back next week with a review on 99 Seconds. So, in the meantime, for anything else Nintendo, go to me and many others at NintendoEnthusiast.com. This is Balrog signing out, and I'll see you guys with more reviews very soon. Ciao!
Valentina!
Neanche questi fiori azzurri. Valentina! Sì, è vero. Voglio subito Valentina qui! Piano di musica. Valentina! E di uomini che ti sono piaciuti. It's wonderful, it's wonderful, it's wonderful. Like my baby, it's wonderful, it's wonderful, it's wonderful. Dream of you.
Valentina, Valentina.
Valentina, the new eau de parfum by Valentino.
I have no life.
Vieni qui. Niente più ti lega a questi luoghi.
Valentina!
Neanche questi fiori azzurri.
Valentina!
Sì, è vero.
Voglio subito Valentina qui!
Piano di musica.
Valentina!
E di uomini che ti sono piaciuti. It's wonderful, it's wonderful, it's wonderful. It's wonderful, it's wonderful, it's wonderful. Dream of you.
Valentina, Valentina.
Valentina, the new eau de parfum by Valentino.
Alright, Super Mario Brothers. So every gamer should know who Mario is. He's that plumber dude who's trying to save the princess by getting mushrooms and shooting fire out of his hands. But even though the concept is very weird and unusual, the game spawned endless sequels and endless merchandise, and actually made Nintendo a common household name. Why is that? Why do game developers all over the world idolize a fat Italian plumber? Well, before I tell you why, I gotta show you how Mario came to be in the first place. Let's travel back to 1980, where Nintendo of America was about to go belly up. You ready? Because welcome to Nintendo 101. We're going over the history of Mario. So back when Nintendo made arcade games, they made a space shooter called Radar Scope. The game played like the love child of Space Invaders and Galaxian, except a lot worse. Needless to say, it sucked and sold terribly in the States. I mean, look at that translation. Since Nintendo had over 2,000 copies left of this crap game, the CEO ordered Miyamoto, Radar Scope's game designer, to create a new game on the systems that'd be a bestseller. That's right, Miyamoto's first game was a blowout. But being the creative man he is, he wanted to create a love triangle game based off the animation Popeye, using characters Bluto, Olive Oil, and Guess. Unfortunately, Nintendo could not get the license, but that didn't stop him. He decided to use these characters as inspirations for his new game, Donkey Kong. Alright, so you guys should know the plot. Jumpman is a carpenter trying to save his girlfriend, Pauline, from the evil clutches of a giant ape, and you gotta jump over barrels and avoid fire to save her. To get through each level, you gotta make your way to the top of the stage and watch an overgrown ape run away with your girl. Sounding familiar? As you can see, Popeye was not the only inspiration. Alright, so going over a paper-thin plot may sound kinda pointless. I mean, most video games are built off storylines these days, but back in the 80s, this was unheard of, as usually stories were made during or after the development of a game. They were pretty much justifications of why you were playing your game in the first place, and most of the time they just flat out sucked. But by creating a game around the plot, you feel an emotional bond to the character, some sort of spark that makes you want to keep playing, an urge to start popping in endless quarters. To me, it just makes the game feel more personal. Alright, so you're probably thinking, what does this have to do with Super Mario Bros.? Well, everything really. This is where Mario's origin came from, not to mention why Miyamoto loves the hell out of him. You see, Mario's original name was Mr. Video, and Miyamoto wanted him in every game he created. But when the jumping mechanic was added in Donkey Kong, he switched his name to Jumpman. So where did the name Mario originate from? Well, back when Nintendo was in the gutter, they had a warehouse owned by Mario Segale. Segale was pissed because Nintendo was not paying the rent, so he went over to the warehouse and let him have it. Legend has it that Jumpman's concept art and Mario Segale looked very similar, so they decided to name Jumpman after their angry Italian landlord. Crazy, right? Alright, so let's fast forward to 1983. Donkey Kong Jr. came and went, and was a huge success, while Donkey Kong 3 sucked a big one because it did not have Mario. So naturally, Miyamoto wanted to create a game that starred his iconic character, but what kind of game could he create? I mean, at this point all Mario could do is jump over barrels and use hammers. Well, that problem was solved when Miyamoto played the arcade game Joust. Now for those who don't know, Joust was a popular platformer back in the 80s, with a yellow knight riding a flying ostrich. The game's all about defeating waves of buzzards by, well, ramming into them. So Miyamoto wanted to create a game based off this ostrich ramming platformer, so he gave a good old look at Mario. After looking back at his appearance, overalls, a hat, a mustache, he decided, this man's no carpenter, he's a plumber. And where do most plumbers originate from? New York City. That's Miyamoto logic for you. Weird concepts aside, there was one problem left. In Joust, two players could work simultaneously to take out buzzards. So how could Nintendo make this a two-player game if they only had Mario? Well, by giving him a brother, of course. Since Mario was Italian, they decided to give his bro an Italian name as well, Luigi. And with that, the Mario Brothers were born. If you've ever played the Mario Advance games or had an e-reader, you should know exactly what I'm talking about. The game looks similar to Joust, but takes place in the sewers of New York City. You got your average sewer animals, turtles, crabs, bees, okay, maybe not bees, and they're coming out of pipes and you gotta clean the place up. But Nintendo's engineer, Gunpei Yokoi, had an awesome idea. Why not make Mario and Luigi superhuman? And that's what made the Mario Brothers stand out. You could punch the bottom of a wall and make animals flip over. You could jump from any height like it was absolutely nothing. You could freaking punch a block that causes a mini earthquake in a sewer. These changes made the player simply feel like a badass. Monsters would get faster and faster, and whacking them from the bottom and watching them fly was pretty darn satisfying. Mario would go under one final transformation, which would turn him into the icon he is today. So it's time to talk about the Famicom, or as we know, the NES. So in the mid-1980s, game consoles were, well, a lost cause. There was a bajillion consoles out, home computers usually had far superior technology, and people who actually did buy the consoles had to deal with some of the worst games ever created. All of this contributed to the video game crash of 1983, and people digging holes in New Mexico trying to bury their unsold crap. But then the Famicom changed everything. even at launch, this system had decent arcade ports of Donkey Kong, Popeye, and Mario Brothers, which was mind-blowing back in the day. I mean, think about it, playing arcade games at your house without having to pop in quarters? It's genius, right? Usually people were stuck playing Atari ports of Pac-Man and stuff. God, that looks awful. But this is what really helped the game industry recover, and Famicom became the leading console in under a year. But with the release of Super Mario Bros., the industry was catapulted back into place. This game went to be the second best-selling game of all time, only trumped by Wii Sports, selling over 40 million copies. But to see why this game was such a hit, we gotta look back at the development.